Want to see something hilarious? Keep watching the video to find out what happened. Festival season is upon us, headbangers. The sun is shining, the birds are chirping, and the bands are banging. Kicking out all of your favorite metal jams of the 80s, 90s, and today, with awesome metal festivals all over the world, including deep in Dahmer territory at Milwaukee Metalfest.
Actually, it's pronounced Milwaukee, which is Algonquin for the good land.
Hosted at the historical venue The Rave, Milwaukee Metalfest returns for its second year of resurrection with even more brutality, more neck injuries, and some fantastical power metal even. I attended Milwaukee Metalfest last year for its initial return under the leadership of Jamie Josta and was very impressed and had a great time. This year's lineup was also very enticing and a little surprising. I wasn't expecting the sprinkling of power metal legends this year with the likes of Blind Guardian, Camelot, and Hammerfall being on the list. But you know what? Sometimes it's nice to take a break from hearing brutal songs about bludgeoning people with hammers and listen to some whimsical, sparkly songs about fairy tales instead. Variety, folks, it's good for you. Full disclosure, once again, Milwaukee Metalfest was kind enough to hook me up with a photo pass so I could get these epic shots, and I even had the man of the hour himself, Jamie Josta, on recently for an interview, if you haven't checked that out yet. And yes, that does mean I will be a complete shill and will only say positive things about the festival, like that it was the best event to ever happen in the entirety of the human race, and anyone who wasn't there is a poser who listens to Machine Gun Kelly. No, I'm kidding. Without giving any spoilers away, this year's edition was pretty good. Really good even. But there were definitely some issues, unfortunately. That said, it was still definitely a badass, great weekend, and by far the most exciting thing to happen in Milwaukee ever since a nerd ate a few people a couple decades ago. Headbang the like button, stage dive onto the subscribe button, and windmill the video to your friends. If you're a fan of the channel and you'd like to show your support, consider becoming a member. Memberships are only 99 cents a month, and each one really helps me toward my goal of creating a life-size Godzilla to invade Canada. And now let me tell you about my time at Milwaukee Metalfest 2024. The epic hardcore metal weekend kicked off with a hell of a bang when the Airbnb I was supposed to stay in for the weekend turned out to be a scam. So that was fun. So the Airbnb that my friends booked for Milwaukee Metalfest was a scam. It was an abandoned house that ripped us off. I blame Bob Ain. My friends had taken a red-eye overnight flight too, and they felt particularly murderous after that happened. I went by the place we were supposed to stay at and saw that it looked pretty run down and abandoned. So to the owner of that Airbnb listing, fuck you, I hope you get leprosy. Eventually, Airbnb found us a new place that was farther away and loud as fuck. But hey, we got a place to stay. My friends went to finally go to sleep, and I went to the Milwaukee Metalfest pre-party, hosted by Jamie Josta with a bunch of his friends, and openers H1Z1 and Toxic Ruin, both of who I'm unfamiliar with, but were good. H1Z1 is a new metal act from Milwaukee, and Toxic Ruin are some good old thrash. Then Josta took to the stage to officially welcome us headbangers to his party, super amped up and whipping me in the face with the mic cord, as you can see right here. It just barely scraped the side of my camera. It was funny. Not the only attack my camera will face this weekend. I appreciated how excited Josta was. If you didn't know who he was, you'd probably think he was just an overly excited fan that jumped on stage. He kicked out some badass thrash jams and brought out Zetro to do a few Exodus songs, Bobby Blitz to do some Overkill, and a collection of hardcore royalty throwing down for the crowd. It was a pretty sick kickoff to this badass weekend. Something I kinda like about this festival is bands start around 2 p.m., meaning plenty of time to sleep off all of those $13 beers you spent all of your money on before the festival even started. The area around the festival is rather quaint, half a humble local town of cool old architecture and nice friendly people, and the other half a run-down shithole. Walking down the street here reminds me of playing the old Tony Hawk games on the PlayStation 2. Since the festival started a bit late, I hit up several spots nearby for lunch throughout the days, and every single place I went to, not only was the food really good, but the employees were super nice, friendly, and into metal. Apparently, Milwaukee is full of cool people who like metal. But But you're here for the band, so let's get back to that. Entering the festival this year, first thing I noticed was more vendors selling all of your favorite heavy metal trinkets and trinkets, which was cool. Last year it was a couple vendors selling cool stuff. This year it almost had a small comic convention vibe to it. Any serious collectors could probably find some really good shit here. I walked in while the black metal band Uda pressed into Milwaukee Metalfest with extreme blast beats and screamy screams. A pretty damn strong start to the festival, and totally not matching all of the happy power metal that was about to take place. The first band where I actually caught their entire set was Lords of the Trident, because I always start my hearty feast with a nice appetizer of cheese. They delivered a classic old school power metal type of set that really helped me get into the metal festival mindset. I hadn't seen this band before, and they were pretty fun. They really brought a fun, lighthearted atmosphere, and their music sounded like they were really excited to see Blind Guardian play later tonight. Great stage presence, and power metal early in the day really helped set the metal festival vibe. But exposure to too much power metal can cause one to go full Don Quixote, unless it's balanced out with a proper amount of blast beats and badass guitar shredding, like that offered by the band Bewitcher. Grimy, dirty death metal that was oh so pleasing to my ears. The underground was heavy throughout this first afternoon, with a couple of bands that I was unfamiliar with. Wandering around sniffing out the stankiest riffs in the place, I checked out Silva, a fucking badass black and death metal band from Minneapolis, Visigoth on the main stage with some pretty grandiose epic metal. Their singer in particular had an awesome voice. And wandering back into the small bar stage, I caught Backlash, an old school influenced metal band who may not have been the craziest act on the lineup, but they were a solid heavy metal band. The kind you enjoy while standing there holding a beer and you just keep thinking to yourself, fuck yeah, dude. The day was still packed with heavy hitters though. Nunslaughter took the second stage and holy shit, they were so good. Aggressive as fuck black metal assault, bashing your skull with furious blasphemy. They blew me away. I am a big fan of nasty, dirty as fuck old school black metal. Something about violent music, I don't know, it's just fun and it warms the heart. The next band I thought seriously leveled the place, being as crushing as Lizzo's scale, was death metal legends Incantation, the first of several death metal juggernauts destroying the stages this weekend. Milwaukee Metalfest is in full effect at this point, and Incantation is making sure the fans will have neck injuries for several days to come. At this point, it was becoming apparent how hot and humid it was getting in the second stage. It was a warm weekend in Milwaukee, and the first 2 days of the festival, when a popular band was playing on this second stage, it was a damn sauna in here, which is probably great for all the Scandinavians watching In Flames, but I thought it was kind of gross. There were times where I left a band in here to catch some air and cool down. Thankfully, the massive ballroom upstairs didn't have that problem, but when Overkill was playing, you can guarantee sweat is gonna fly and heads are gonna roll. I hadn't seen thrash OG's Overkill in a long ass time, maybe 10 years. And I'll confess, I may have forgotten just how badass they actually are. Bobby Blitz and the boys quickly smashed my mind back right and gave me a fistful of nostalgic thrash anthems right in my face. Like Anthrax, it seems like Overkill have only gotten better, faster, and more awesome with age. Hearing songs that helped me get into metal being played more extreme and more insane just warms my metal heart and gets the blood flowing. Songs like Elimination and Fuck You gave me flashbacks to discovering metal for the first time and filling my computer with viruses from LimeWire. The crowd was packed too. Overkill may not be the same status as something like Slayer, but thrash fans have always given them huge respect and they continue to earn that to this day. With all of that violence and aggressive thrashing madness, some people may have wanted to slow things down a bit now, maybe lighten the mood with some fun sing-alongs, and those fans found just that on the second stage for Hammerfall. I thought they would be on the main stage. Actually, several bands played in here I thought would be on the main stage. I've seen Hammerfall play some big shows in Europe, but the band certainly didn't seem to mind and brought just as much energy and showmanship to this stage as they do at the major festivals overseas. I've never been the biggest Hammerfall fan, but it's undeniably fun when you're surrounded by them and their fans singing these cheesy anthems. The crowd were loud and very into it. The power metal fans are in for quite the show for the rest of the evening. Gracing the stage after Hammerfall was the legend I was very much looking forward to, Goddess of Metal Doro. Doro is one of the original queens of metal. She started rocking the European stages along with all of the early metal legends. She may not be as well known as Lemmy or Rob Halford, but she's just as fucking awesome, and they both always vouched for her. her. She is old school anthem blaring, fist pumping heavy metal, and is still just as excited as ever to be doing it. Doro emanates authenticity when she's on stage. You can absolutely tell that she loves doing it and loves performing for her fans. That's what's great about metal, is when you can tell that they're the real deal, and Doro most definitely is. And the best part about Doro's set here was that since I was standing in the photo pit, I was so close to her that I could very clearly smell her perfume, and it was such a breath of fresh oxygen after suffocating in that beer sweat moist box. In fact, maybe I should start just bringing perfume with me to concerts from now on and just spray it around when things start to get stinky. Anyway, I was thrilled to see Doro, and she delivered. My friends who had never really listened to her before and weren't sure what to expect were also saying that she totally killed it. When she wrapped up, I went upstairs to continue the fun sing-along session with Camelot. Camelot are a very pretty melodic band that sing about heartbreak and poetry and sad shit like that. Definitely stands apart from the intensity of the underground bands downstairs. But I actually really like Camelot a lot, and really enjoyed this set. It was nice to have a band that took up the large stage presence and made use of the ballroom size. And for how flowy and pretty their music is, and it definitely is, it's still very headbangable, and the band brought power to the stage. Their songs Rule the World, Forever, and March of Mephisto were especially epic big highlights for me. At this point, I'd say the addition of power metal bands this year is working quite well. To top that off with the headliner of the first night, Blind Guardian. A band I used to be obsessed with when I was younger. Still very much enjoy, but more of a nostalgic act for me these days. I was curious how they do as a headliner here, given the audience tends to be more fans of extreme metal. And if I'm being completely honest here, they could have done better. They played for maybe an hour, which is a bit short for them, but mostly they omitted a lot of their best songs from the set list. I'm not saying they should have only done an old school set. I mean, they should have, that would have been amazing. But this set just didn't grab me in the way previous Blind Guardian shows have. But that also could have been due to the fact that Hansi sounded like he was singing through a megaphone in another room. It wasn't just them. For several of the bands performing in the ballroom, the sound was so cavernous that the vocals just sounded like a large far-off echo. It was an issue for a few bands, but Hansi especially sounded like he was singing from deep within my ex's vagina. Hello, 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 Milwaukee, Milwaukee. It's always fun to see Blind Guardian, and the crowd were loud with singing, especially during the Bard song, possibly the only acoustic song played here for the entire weekend. And with the fade of Blind Guardian's echoing serenade was the close of day one. And speaking of concerts, before we continue, this brings me right neatly along to the sponsor of this video, me and my band Dark Insanity. We are performing our first festival in Europe called Tolminator, which takes place in Slovenia this summer, and we could really use your help to get there. We have started a GoFundMe to help us get over the pond and bring our metal to the headbangers out there, and any help we could get along the way would be greatly appreciated. Link to the page can be found in the description of this video, as well as links to many other cool things I offer. Anyway, back to the video. Day 2 dawned on Saturday in Milwaukee, and this one kicked into full fucking gear immediately. Slamming Brutality conquered the main stage with internal fucking bleeding kicking things off. God damn are they good. A death metal band you can trust to bring the party. So heavy in fact that some of their members didn't even use the stage at all. Screw that shit. The band were heavy and fun as fuck. My friends and I kept turning to each other and just going, damn! A fantastic kick in the balls to start this day of death metal badassery. That included the ever-terrifying beach balls in the crowd. They absolutely crushed it. They totally beat the hangovers out of everyone there. They were followed by Devourment, who also were crushingly brutal once the singer's mic was actually turned on. The first song or two, you couldn't hear him at all, but it did adjust and kick into gear shortly after. The fans came ready to rage, and despite it being early in the day, the crowds were packed and on fire. There was so much death metal intensity on this day, but one that particularly stood out to me was Skinless. I'd never seen Skinless before. When I was first getting into metal, I came across them and saw how overwhelmingly extreme they were, but live was a whole new level of heavy. I dare say that Skinless may have been the heaviest band the entire weekend. The crowd was goddamn loving it, and the spines were getting severely damaged for this set. This entire day of Milwaukee Metalfest was like the musical equivalent of going through a wood chipper in the best way possible. After Skinless gave everyone permanent hearing damage, down on the second stage was the reunion of Soylent Green, the grimy sledge metal act that is now almost a supergroup of New Orleans' grimiest. They brought a combination of aggressive fast metal and heavy rafter-shaking riffs. The sweatbox of the second stage was in full effect for these guys, only now the humidity was more marijuana sweat than beer. Following them, back upstairs were death metal legends Terrorizer, and they were fucking sick. First time seeing them for me, and they beat the crowd with old school death metal like this was 1993. Moment of badassery goes to their vocalist for performing in the middle of the pit while the crowd moshed around him. Awesome. After them, returning to the second stage was Death to All, for one of the most crowded performances of the festival. Death to All is several former members of Death, including Gene motherfucking Hoglan, the drumming machine, doing Death songs in honor of Chuck Schuldiner. They actually played 2 sets. This one was Sound of Perseverance, followed by a Scream Bloody Gore set the next day. They were fucking intense and hot. It was really hot in here during them. Goddamn, they probably should have been on the main stage both days. This really was an excellent homage to the entire old school death metal scene though. I mean, it's the return of Milwaukee Metalfest with death blasting. That is the spirit of the underground. The party is in full effect now, and it's about to get kicked into nitro fucking overdrive with Municipal Waste. You know them, you love them, you know when there's Municipal Waste, there's drunk headbangers throwing garbage cans at each other. I've seen Municipal Waste a lot over the years, and I really think this may have been one of the best times I've seen them. Just by being themselves, they kicked the party into a whole new level of mad. Crowd surfers everywhere. People, trash cans, and other objects being thrown around all over the place. I used to blast these guys at house parties in high school drinking underage. And it's crazy to see them now in my 30s still showing headbangers how to party their faces off. Not everyone can grow up to cut their hair and be a dumb, boring adult. Sometimes there needs to be bands like Municipal Waste who act like they're still playing the same beer pong match from high school. The crossover class of the early 2000s house party band was followed by a trip downstairs for legends Possessed. Milwaukee Metalfest is stacked with old school underground legends. For those that don't know, Possessed were one of the earliest spawns of what would develop into death metal music. The underground shows huge respect to frontman Jeff Becerra as one of the earlier pioneers of harsher vocals in metal. And I thought it was pretty fucking cool to see Death to All and Possessed in the same day. Basically the 2 earliest death metal bands, more or less. As always, Possessed killed it, and Jeff still sounds like a demonic bat lost in hell with rabies. While we're at it, why not throw another classic slab on this old school death metal barbecue with some Deicide as well. My mama always said Deicide was like a box of black t-shirts. You always know exactly what you're gonna get. Satan's fist smashing right into your skull like the upside down cross on Glenn Benton's forehead. They opened with Once Upon the Cross, which, fuck yeah. Deicide is straight blistering live. They have probably left me with more permanent hearing damage than any other band I've seen live. And they packed that sweatbox with diehard fans losing their shit at their favorite Christ-bashing anthems. And yes, that is a tablet on the mic stand. Anyway, Deicide were absolutely devastating in their delivery. And what was also devastating was that they had gotten delayed quite a bit. At some point in the day, bands on this stage started getting delayed by some 20 to 30 minutes or more, and it did screw some things up. Deicide were supposed to be able to play their full set, and then Testament were to start right after, but due to the delay, they ended up playing during each other. And Deicide were killing it, but I did want to see Testament, so sacrifices had to be made. Testament are another legendary band that only seems to improve with age. They always deliver a blistering thrash performance, captivating speed and melody, and Chuck Billy's vocals are just so goddamn awesome. I especially love his epic lows that thunder over the crowd. And here comes the moment you've all been waiting for from the beginning of the video, the funniest fucking moment of the entire festival. You see this air shooting up here? These are the cannons that they come from. They were right in front of the stage where the photo pit is. And before Testament started, I remember seeing them and I thought to myself, I bet some idiot's gonna get blasted in the face with that. That'd be hilarious. Yeah, well, stupid is as stupid does. Warning, objects on stage are closer than they appear. This cannon launched my phone out of my hands and left me like someone in a bombing. I was just standing there like, what the fuck just happened? My phone ended up just being right behind me. I don't know if it bounced off the rail or hit someone in the face or what, but I thought that shit was launched across the venue. If anyone got video of that happening, please tag me in it. Yeah, so I'm dumb, but Testament are amazing, and they could have been the headliners themselves. They were awesome. Their show was packed because, duh, who doesn't love Testament? The epic vocals, the electrifying guitar riffs, the intensity. Once Testament finished and I finally stopped laughing, up next for me on the smallest stage was a band called Belushi Speedball. Fantastic band name. I'd seen this band's name going around a lot lately, and people had been telling me that their shows are pretty ridiculous, and boy shit were they right. Who cares what the music even was when the crowd was throwing toilet paper, toy guns, Tupperware, even camping tents? How did they even get all this shit in here? Belushi Speedball are a party thrash band. They don't give a fuck about making great musical pieces of art. They just want to throw the craziest party you've ever seen. Walking into this show was like walking into a 90s frat comedy movie starring Ryan Reynolds, and their music was just as hilarious as the show. They had songs called Ripping Off Municipal Waste, My Favorite Color is Pizza, and the highlight for me, so one of my favorite comedy movies of all time is called The Other Guys. And this band had a song called Dirty Mike and the Boys. If you get it, you get it. If you don't, see the movie. This was fucking awesome. I don't know if I'd listen to their music now at home by myself being old on a Friday night, but I'll be stoked to see them live any chance I get. And if I was in high school, I know I would have partied so hard to these guys' music that several people would have been arrested and the house would have been on fire. If this all wasn't weird enough for you, if flying tents and songs about hobos fucking in a Prius just aren't strange enough for you yet, then the weirdness got even weirder upstairs with tonight's headliners, Mr. Bungle. Mr. Bungle are bizarre as shit. Mike Patton, Scott Ian, Dave Lombardo, making weird noises for an hour. In a great way, this show is awesome and so entertaining. It's hilarious to go from Slayer riffs right into slow jazz ballads and every type of noise in between. Mike Patton is such a strange musical enigma in the best way, and this was certainly a bizarre yet fun performance to cap off the night. And with the bizarreness of Bungle, Day 2 of Milwaukee Metalfest said adieu. Day 3 arrives, and it's that bittersweet feeling of knowing it's coming to an end. Or maybe it's just fatigue from 2 days of inhaling sweaty beer moisture. I started the final day off early to catch Upon Stone. Awesome melodic death metal band from LA, and big shout out to guitarist Ronnie for slaughtering that stage. They were great. If you like heavy melodic bands, do not sleep on these guys. They killed it and got day 3 off to a great start. Another band on day 3 that I know always delivers is Exhumed, who filled that second stage with nasty chainsaw riffs and visions of gore. Exhumed are awesome. Every time I've seen them, they deliver grinding death metal savagery. There were guillotines, there were chainsaws and blood flying around. Fun for the whole family. What wasn't fun for the whole family was, again, sets were getting delayed, and it seemed to just get worse throughout the day. Death to All's second set was supposed to start at 5:40, but they came on almost an hour later after that. By the time Gatecreeper started, Death to All hadn't even hit the stage yet, which was a bummer, but I wasn't gonna miss Gatecreeper, because anyone who has seen them can testify that they fucking demolish every stage that they enter. The band knows that the audience knows that it's time to throw the fuck down. Gatecreeper is one of those bands that's really making new generations of headbangers know what death metal really sounds like. They were as brutal and satisfying as expected. Right after them was supposed to have been Lacuna Coil, but like I said, things were getting crazy delayed at this point. I Am Morbid, or the artist formerly known as Morbid Angel, took to the stage well before them. This was an Altars of Madness 35th anniversary set, so all of the slimy, brutal classics like Damnation blasted through the headbangers' ears. They were awesome, and packed in that venue too. The second stage was pretty on fire the whole last day. I hadn't seen this iteration of Morbid Angel yet, and I was impressed. But I was also conflicted, because I wanted to see Lacuna Coil too, who were probably going to start any time now. Kinda confusing there were no set time updates that went out for that last day. I really wanted to see Lacuna Coil give a proper performance, since my only other time getting to see them was at Sick New World 2023. And I did make a good choice because I thought they were great. Again, a band that made good use of the full stage. I mean, they do have 2 vocalists, but hey. Lacuna Coil were huge when I was in high school, but I never really dived into them that much. But they were awesome. They were a nice temporary breath of fresh air from the constant pulsating blast beats all day. And Christina's vocals wonderfully soared through that massive ceiling. The crowd also got a moment to rest their necks and wave their hands instead, so that was nice. After their set, I went back down to the second stage to wait for In Flames when I saw that I Am Morbid was still fucking playing. How did I catch their first couple of songs and then see all of Lacuna Coil and then catch a few more songs? I mean, hey, I would rather the bands get to play their whole time rather than get cut short, so sure. About an hour after they left the stage, it was time for In Flames, who I was also really surprised played in here. I thought for sure they would be a main stage band. It was especially a sweaty sauna in here as everyone wanted to see them. And rightfully so because they killed it. They sounded amazing and super clear. My friends I was with are massive In Flames fans, and they said it was one of the best shows of theirs they'd seen in a while. It's funny, being up here in the photo pit, you can't really tell how big the crowd is. You just know it's getting hotter and people keep flying over the rail. While I think it might have been better to have them on the main stage, In Flames were still a great choice to close out the second stage, as they put on a hell of a headline performance. After In Flames, for me, there was only one more band of the festival, the final headliner, rising deathcore heavyweights Slaughter to Prevail. I was really curious to see how this would go for a couple of reasons. I'm not a big deathcore guy. Like at all. I've heard some of Slaughter's songs here and there, but never really sat down and gave them a full shot. But their vocalist, full-time demon screamer, and part-time bear wrestler Alex Terrible is what some consider to be controversial and problematic, which I find to be funny. Slaughter is also a very popular band right now, but they don't have the legacy and reputation of many of the older, more legendary acts that are on this lineup. That's not meant as a slight on them, but I was just wondering how they'd handle that headline set on a festival like this. Well, pretty immediately once they took to the stage, I was hit in the face like a Russian slap fight match with the realization that you should never doubt the bear man. They were brutal and pumped up the crowd. One thing I thought was really cool was to see right in the front row were a lot of younger fans, many of them females, to see a badass performer on stage who is supposedly toxic. Excellent cherry on top of that social media comment section Sunday with them covering Du Hast from Rammstein. I was impressed. Like I said, deathcore isn't my cup of tea, but Slaughter to Prevail is awesome enough to break through that for me. Also, I'm just terrified that the Russian bear growler will eat me if I say otherwise. Statistically speaking, encountering an Alex Terrible in the wild has an 8% survival rate. So rest in pieces to any headbangers that were lost. Your sacrifice was worth it. And that is the close of Milwaukee Metalfest 2024. It was a damn good time. There were awesome sets and great bands. I love the rave and the whole layout of the festival. It's extreme and laid back. You don't have to bust your ass just to see a ton of badass shows. I think it's pretty affordable too. Tickets are much lower than what you'll find at the far bigger festivals out there. But the delays this year were bad, especially the last day. I have no idea what happened with that, why they started getting pushed so far back, but that wasn't great. And the echo for the vocals in the ballroom for many bands made it sound messy and disorienting. The vocalists probably shouldn't sound like they're singing at the bottom of the Grand Canyon. All of these issues are definitely things that can be worked out and prevented next year, so fingers crossed. One thing to say that many people told me this year was that while they thought the lineups throughout the day were really stacked and hard-hitting, the headliners this year kinda left more to be desired. And I would agree. Last year it was Biohazard, Anthrax, and Lamb of God who were more obvious headline choices. This year when the headliners were announced, I was excited for all three of those bands, but I also thought the headliners were still coming. And then I was like, oh, they are the headliners. Not saying it needed to be Pantera, Slayer, and Slipknot or anything like that, but there were bands like Testament and Overkill throughout the weekend who seemed to have bigger draws than the headlining bands did. So much of this festival is done right, however, and I'm excited to see it continue to develop. The addition this year of more vendors, more food trucks, made sure fans had a good time hanging out if they weren't busy moshing. This festival really feels like a cool fucking weekend hangout with a bunch of friends. It is a good time, not complicated at all to get to and figure out, and it won't kill you unless you decide to go hard and thrash yourself. Your dad could have a great time and not injure himself while seeing all the bands that you're seeing while you're busy running and moshing the whole set. It's a festival I'm glad has returned and I see myself regularly visiting. But of course, Milwaukee has had its share of visitors over the years, and I will continue returning to this festival so long until I see Deicide live again and permanently lose my hearing. I also met a ton of you guys out there this weekend. Many of you came up to me and said that you enjoy the channel and like what I do, and that is really awesome. I'm truly grateful and humbled when I meet you guys out there who enjoy what I'm doing here. That is really cool and is never taken for granted, so thank you. And a special shout out to my loyal servants who bowed to me and praised me as the savior of metal. Your gratitude is honored in the Metal Kingdom. But what did you guys think, those of you who attended Milwaukee Metalfest? Let me know what you thought of this year's festival in the comments below. For more from me, check out my band Dark Insanity on Instagram, here on the channel, and now on all streaming platforms. We just released our debut EP, Rabid Psychosis, now available. You can find us on Spotify, on iTunes, on Apple Music, on OnlyFans, we're everywhere. And even more exciting news, I now have official merch available for the channel. Now you can get Why It's Metal and Dark Insanity gear. Everything from shirts, hats, hoodies, beanies, travel bags, stickers. Now you can hide your weed in a bag with my name on it. How cool is that? Go to wyattsmetal.spreadshop.com to see everything available, or you can click on the link in the description of this video. Links to all of my cool stuff can be found in the description below. Anyway, that's it for now, and I'll see you in the next video.